Okay, tell me moms if you can relate to this. It's been a long day. Your 2-year-old is losing it after every little thing, and they want the blue cup instead of the green cup. And then your 7-year-old is talking back to you and you don't know how to deal with it. Or maybe you have a 4-year-old who is constantly fighting with their siblings. And you feel overwhelmed, you feel stressed out, and you feel exhausted. You wonder if you are doing this whole parenting thing right. You are doubting how you are showing up as a mother, and you constantly feel like it's one thing after the other. It's just when you just get something figured out, then it's just a new thing. Today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you Conscious Parenting 101 and the key points and also examples that I have personally used in my own life that will help you as well, and you could use them with your own children. So stick around. Hey everyone, welcome to Mom for Every Season, helping you live your most heart-centered and empowered life and motherhood. And my name is Taryn if you're brand new, and on this channel I share everything conscious parenting, mindful motherhood, and intentional living. So if any of that resonates, I would absolutely love for you to stick around and hit that subscribe button and that little bell notification so you don't miss any upcoming videos. So first off, I would love to know if you are new to conscious parenting or positive parenting. There's so many other different names. There's peaceful parenting, gentle, or respectful, but they all are essentially the same, if not the exact same. They all hold the same values and key points, and it is all about giving your child the respect and dignity that they deserve. Okay, and listen, this whole parenting gig is hard and it's challenging. It challenges us past our own limits, and the day that we leave the hospital, we're not given a tutorial or a manual on our baby or our child and how to raise them. And it can be hard some days, and we aren't taught how to deal with temper tantrums or big emotions or the hard days in parenting. A lot of this is just kind of a trial by error. We're just figuring it out as we go along, and parenting is a journey, and there's never an end to it. It's always constantly evolving, and we are just essentially thrown into the fire to figure it all out. And a lot of that can come down to bringing up our own emotions and our own fears. Because when we have a challenging behavior, a lot of times it's a big mirror into our own childhood and our own fears. So that can be really hard and really challenging as a parent. Okay, so here are some key points and the basic 101s of conscious parenting. Number 1 is focus on the need, not the behavior. And this one is pretty tough because as we were growing up in our generation, society has told us that we need to curb that bad behavior so that we can raise compassionate, capable human beings. That's just how we are wired and how we were brought up. So a lot of that can be breaking down your own patterns. And I posted this over on my Instagram, a graphic with an iceberg. So if you're not following me there, make sure you head on over there and follow me. It's under the same name, A Mom for Every Season. You can check out the link in the description box below to get kind of a better idea. But think of your child's behavior as communication. It is just a way to communicate an unmet need. So underneath, what we see is the tip of the iceberg, is the child's behavior. But what we don't see underneath are so much more that it could be. There is so much more that we are not seeing that is below the surface. So focus on trying to get down to what that unmet need is. Sometimes it's as easy as just needing, they're hungry, or they need more sleep. They need to have a nap. It could be as simple as that, or it could be deeper and they are having fears, or they're having jealousy. Maybe they are jealous of their sibling, or maybe it's more complex and they need more connection from you. Maybe they're missing something from you as a parent. Maybe they aren't feeling as loved as they need to be because you don't understand their love language. There's so much more that we don't know what's going on. And even a lot of times, with all of what's going on with this, right now we're in this world right now with the shelter in place and this pandemic that was going on, I knew and I expected a lot of big emotions to come up, especially with my daughter who's missing school. And as an example, the other morning, this is my own personal example, but the other morning, my son, who is 4, was, he was just in a really grumpy mood. He had a scowl on his face, and he just had this kind of poor attitude, right? And I ask him, what do you want for breakfast? And he kind of scowls at me and, has this tone in his voice. And you know what? Like, society would have told me, okay, he needs to be reprimanded. That's not okay. That's not the way you respond to your parent who you should respect. Instead, I, acknowledged I tried to figure out what was the unmet need there. And I said to him, you seem upset, is that right? And again, he kind of scowled a little bit, didn't really answer. And okay, so again, he kind of scowled and I prompted him again. And I said, okay, like whenever you're ready, I'm here for you. Just let me know. And then I could kind of tell he was softening a little bit. And then almost in tears, he says, you forgot to give me my morning hug. And like, that made my mama heart hurt so bad. But you know what I mean? If I had gone straight to reprimanding him or, straight to scolding him for his disrespectful tone, I would have completely missed that opportunity for connection. So instead, I went to figuring out what the unmet need is here and not focusing on the behavior itself, but focusing on how can I show up. So I acknowledged his feelings and I, connected to love. Which brings me to the second point, connection, which is kind of the same as the example, but connection before correction. And Dr. Shefali, who is kind of the original advocate and mentor for conscious parenting, really, really reiterates this point. And I mean, this one is similar to the one above. And as parents, when you connect first, that makes your child feel more significant. They feel more valued. They feel as, more part of the family and that they matter too. So there are tons of different ways that you can connect with your child. I often, a lot of times, will use humor. But I mean, the first steps are just getting down to your child's level, making eye contact. And as an example, I've used this too where, you can notice maybe your 3-year-old is having a hard time putting their boots on and they're starting to get frustrated, or maybe they're going into temper tantrum territory. Just getting down to their eye level and connecting with them and mentioning, again, it looks like you're having a hard time. Would you like some help or do you want to do it on your own? Or maybe your 5-year-old is, you've asked them to come because it's time to go and they talk back and they say, no, I'm not ready yet, or no, I don't want to go. Like, you can connect with them, connect with what they're doing, what they're interested in. So for instance, if maybe they were reading before all of this or they were playing, you can say something like, wow, that book looks really interesting. Would you like 1 more minute or 2 more minutes to finish it? Number 3, respond versus react. Okay, so parenting is one of the hardest things, again, I've said this, that we will ever do in our life, and it tests us beyond our limits. Like, I didn't even know I could go to that part of myself, right? Like, I didn't know I had that type of anger in myself, or I didn't know I was that impatient, right? Like, a lot of times it brings up a lot of your own childhood, a lot of your own past. And again, we weren't taught in my generation about emotions. Like, this is just starting in the last 20 years, they've started, developing and researching more emotions and how it works in our life. But I mean, parenting can, again, test us, and especially under times of stress and if we're not prioritizing ourselves. And I promote self-care like so much on my channel. If you need help with anything, finding time for yourself or other self-care videos, then make sure you check out my other videos. I can link them right here and in the description box below if you need help with that. Parenting takes a lot of your own inner work and your own patience to respond. And it's hard because, when your child has had their gazillionth temper tantrum, it can get wearing. So conscious parenting takes a lot of inner work, and it takes so much patience to respond rather than yell at them. Like, that takes a lot of rewiring in your own brain. And to start this, it's easy as just removing yourself from the situation if you need, taking a deep breath, and just going from there. And it's realizing that they're not being bad, they're not trying to manipulate you, and that, they're just having a hard time too. Okay. Number 4, model. And so if you want your children to be polite and respectful and forgiving and kind and compassionate, all those things, then we as parents have to model that like crazy. And I've noticed this, like, one time when my oldest was like, I think 2 or 3, I remember her constantly saying like, what? And I'm like, oh, that sounds so like rude. And then I realized I do that. I respond with that phrase a lot. So I had to like take a good look at my own self and realize that it's like, okay, well, she's learning this from me. So, I mean, if you want your child to be able to apologize and be forgiving and kind, then we have to be able to model that as well. So if you are in a constant battle of reactions and emotions and getting angry and losing your patience, then your children aren't going to get a firsthand experience on what it's like to be calm under pressure. So again, we have to model this like crazy, and it goes back to that takes a lot of practice and work as well. Okay, number 5 is transitions. This one, I definitely know that my kids have had a hard time with transitions. So it's like, if we are ready to go and it's time to go, especially my oldest would usually have trouble with this. She doesn't like new things. She doesn't like change. And I mean, children have a harder time day to day adjusting to all those transitions than adults do. So it's nice to have some sort of rhythm or routine that, you know, they can expect what's coming next. And I really love the Waldorf style of kind of more of a rhythm. I mean, I do like routines and see the benefits too, but for me, I'm almost like in between where I have to be in the flow, but then have a little bit of structure. So that's kind of where the rhythm comes in. It's really about breathing in, having breathing in moments to life and breathing out moments. So concentrating on being able to have more of the quiet time, but then your natural rhythm is also going to have an exhalation part as well, where you're doing more active things and everybody is doing something as a family. But then maybe kids need some more independent play. And then also giving tons of visual cues, and like you can use little schedules. I know my son really thrives on this little visual schedule that he knows what's coming up next. Okay, when he was doing his speech therapy and school was still in, he knew that, okay, it's time to be picked up and all of that. So he really liked that. But also having a lot of verbal reminders too. So when it's time to turn the iPad off, rather than saying, okay, it's done, that's it, we're done, giving them lots of reminders beforehand. Okay, you have 10 minutes left, you have 5 minutes left, okay, you have 1 more minute left and we have to turn it off. And that will help alleviate the, temper tantrums or the meltdowns afterwards as well. Okay, number 6 is natural and logical consequences. This one is a hard one to, implement, because you can get in this trap of, when it comes to the, the authoritative kind of punitive punishment, that is used for, making your child comply and doing what you need to. And it ultimately sends the message that the child is the problem. Whereas natural and logical consequences helps your child develop responsibility and inner resilience that you don't get from regular punishment. So the consequence is directly related to the behavior. And the underlying message is that their actions have outcomes and that the damage done is the problem, not the child. So natural consequences have no outside enforcement. So no parent, no caregiver. And for instance, like if you go outside without a coat, you're going to get cold or you're going to get rained on. And then logical consequences are enforced by the parent or the caregiver, but they are directly related to the behavior. It's not something that you're pulling out of totally out of like left field, right? Like, if you, hit your brother, you're not going to watch TV later. Like that's totally out of left field and it's not directly related to the behavior. And they won't, for example, a logical consequence could be, if you make a mess at the table and goof around, you're going to have to vacuum afterwards. I know most of the time my kids don't want to clean up afterwards, so they realize and they kind of smarten up after that. Or, if you goof around at bedtime and don't put your pajamas on in time, we won't have time to read books. That is a completely logical consequence, and it's, up to them. It's still up to them. And consequences should never, ever play on to your child's love or attention. Because when you play that, it ultimately tells your child that, okay, I only love you when you do this for me. Or I only love you when you're good, instead of unconditionally loving them all the time. An example would be asking, would you like to go down the slide one more time or the swing before we go? And then after that, we have to go back home. Number 8 is following through. And, lots of people think that conscious parenting or positive discipline is permissive or it's fluffy parenting, and that is just so not the case, because you can have empathy for your child. You can still have loving but firm boundaries, and a lot of this comes down to following through. So for example, if your child is refusing to clean up, you can say something like, if you don't clean up by the time the timer has run out, then I will do it for you, but then I'm gonna put the stuff in the cupboard until that you show me that you care about your belongings. And also loving boundaries can come in the form of verbal cues, something like hands aren't for hitting, or stepping in and doing more of a physical boundary where you have to hold them. Or a loving boundary can also be acknowledging their emotions, saying, okay, you were mad and you bit your sister. That's not okay to bite your sister, and then separating them. So doing an actual physical limit where, or maybe holding their hand so that they can't hit you. Okay, number 9 is honor emotions. Children often have really big emotions while they are learning to self-regulate. And kids aren't able to self-regulate at a young age. They don't have that brain function yet. So temper tantrums, whining, moping, crying, screaming, all of those, just to name a few. As parents, we often feel the need to fix that feeling, or we don't know how to deal with it ourselves because we weren't taught about emotions, and we need to get it under control. And I view this often as think of your child's emotions like a big pot of water that's boiling and is about to boiling over. This is essentially what your child's emotions is like. And we think it's our job to put that lid back on the pot and get it under control. But rather than thinking that way, think of it as you're helping your child move through those emotions and process those emotions. And sometimes it can, escalate before it goes back down. They, as children, they need our empathy, our acceptance, our unconditional love, because we are their safe place. And in order to be their safe place, we need to kind of accept all of their emotions and accept all of them. You have to sit with the muck sometimes to help them move through it. And another point is just accepting and loving your child for where they're at in that moment. So kind of just dropping your own expectations of how you think your child should be and just allowing them to be how they are. Okay, number 10 is to right your wrongs. And no parent is perfect, and we all make mistakes. But the important part is that our children need to, see a whole range of emotions. They need to see different conflicts, all of that, because that helps them in their own life as well. And they need to see our own imperfections. But the important part is the aftermath. So, making sure that you apologize for your wrongdoing. So if you've yelled at them, then come back later and say, you know what, bud, I'm really sorry I yelled at you. That wasn't, right on mommy's part. I should have taken a deep breath before I talked to you. And all of that, they need to see that it's important to right your wrongs and make things right afterwards as well. Just know that parenting is a journey, it is a practice, and there is no end to this path. It is always evolving, and a lot of inner work as ourselves as parents. Okay, what is your biggest struggle when it comes to parenting right now? Or what is, your biggest frustration with your child's behavior? What keeps coming up for you? I always love when you guys comment down below. It's the biggest support you can offer this channel, and it also builds a little bit of a YouTube community. It shows moms that maybe they're not alone in their journey as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Oh yeah, make sure to check out these videos here for more conscious parenting and mindful motherhood tips. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. And again, if you're brand new, I would love for you to stick around and hit that subscribe button. But that is it for now today. Bye for now.